want to become somebody who runs their own business, then you must be willing to deal with failure. Do something out of the norm at least once a month. Best thing for an entrepreneur, being able to listen to what a client is saying and be able to realize what the client needs and sell it to them. You do an event or a service and you could give it away for free in terms of giving other people access to your network. So that's the advertising model. So the affiliate model is simply that somebody sells a product, my products, or a product on my behalf, and I pay them a commission. The auction model is really useful, I think, for things that are rare. Right, so if you're selling a rare item, like only one, this nobody else has this is one thing, or you're selling products that maybe fast-moving consumer products that are maybe going to expire really soon. So bait and hook models a little bit. It sounds a little bit sinister, but it's not really. It's about those razor blades that you've got to buy refills of the razor blade, but you've got to buy refills of razor blades to keep it sharp, right? So that's the bait and hook model. So you sell them one thing, but they have to buy the consumables from you. You could have a product, or you do an event or a service, and you could give it away for free in terms of giving other people access. Hello and welcome to the Ethel Kofi Startup School. My name is Ethel Kofi. I know today, for our Facebook Live audience, I know today we're late. But we're gonna get through our content really fast. So stick and stay with me. For those of you that are first-time viewers of the show, you're welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the Ethel Kofi Startup School is not. Then I'll tell you a little bit about what it is. Right. So the Ethel Kofi Startup School is not a motivational program to tell you, woohoo, you can do it, about entrepreneurship. It is a practical, as I call it, a practical MBA on the entrepreneurial journey. What you need to do to take you to the next level in your business. What you need to do to start your business. So we're not here to cuddle you and give you motivational words. We're here to give you practical insights. So those of you that are new, you're welcome to the show and enjoy the journey. Every week, those of you that come back to watch this, every week you know that I give away a book. My favorite books are the Harvard Business Review books. This week I am giving away a book, Harvard Business Review book on rebuilding your business model. So if you joined us last week, I talked about business models. And just went through sort of the top business models. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of business models, but I went through at least the top, I think 6 or 7 that you can use in running your business. Okay, so if you watch it through to the end, I will ask a question. And whatever question I ask in the end, the first person to answer it correctly gets to win the book. So you've got to listen through, listen intently, go and get a paper and pen, actually write down, take notes, write down what's been said today. And then I'm going to ask you to take a moment. If you know someone that badly needs to hear what we're teaching today, somebody who's an entrepreneur or starting out on the entrepreneur journey, somebody who's stuck in the entrepreneur journey, please share on your timeline. So just share the video on your timeline, share the Facebook Live, or actually tag them in the comments so that they can be part of it. So I'm going to give you a second to just share on your timeline so that your friends can partake in this, and so you can tell your friends that you're cool, right? So you're actually very serious about entrepreneurial journey, or tag them in there so they know what's going on. So so last week we talked about business models, and you just saw the recap, so I don't need to talk about it too much. This week, there was something that I talked about last week, which was I brushed on quickly, which was the creating of the customer acquisition plan. I've said this and I continue to say this. If you run a business and you're not selling, you have a hobby. It's a very expensive hobby. If nobody's paying for your products, then that's a problem. So this week I wanted to sort of double down a little bit and look into what it takes to create your customer acquisition plan. The plan which will enable you to go out and execute and get sales and get customers and get people to pay you. And frankly, you know, if you're running a business and you're not paid, it's a very terrible place to be in. So please come with me and pay attention. So the step one in the process of the customer acquisition plan is to start at the end, which is to define the goal, right? So I advocate two types of goals, or two types of KPIs, which is key performance indicators. I advocate sales KPIs, so actual sort of revenue numbers, like you know, I'm going to sell 10,000 units of this product each week, right? So every 7 days, that's the 10,000 units of this product. That's a sales KPI. And then you have a customer delivery API, right? KPI, or a customer delivery goal. So you have two things, right? Sales and customer delivery. I genuinely believe in that. Some people have other ideas, but I think those should be your two main sort of goals. Let's say I'm going to sell 1,000 sales units of this product. And then my delivery KPI, my delivery goal will be to deliver all purchases within 24 hours. So you have a goal to sell, but you also have a goal that helps you maintain clients. So those are your main goals. And then I also advocate that you have sort of what I call sort of in-between metrics, or in-between KPIs, or in-between goals, which enable you to check to see if you're going to hit that 10,000 sales of your product per week. So so an in-between goal, for instance, will be to say, if I'm going to sell 10,000 units in a week, then I've got to talk to 20 customers every day, right? That's a goal, right? You've got to talk to 20 customers every day, and then I've got to push 5 customers to reorder. So I've got to contact 5 customers to push them to reorder. So you see, your ultimate goal is a 10,000 units, or 10,000, I don't know what it is, carton of milk, box of skincare products, whatever it is that you're selling, right? But now, right? So if hitting your, if you know that you hit with 7 days to find out if you sold 1,000 units, you might fall short. But if you have a goal every day, which is an in-between goal that is pulling us towards that main goal, which is the 10,000 units of your product, then every day you talk to 20 new customers, 5 old customers to reorder. So you know that, let's say you know that averagely one customer brings you, I don't know, 100 units, right? So you have your main goals, which is 10,000, main sales goal, which is 10,000 units of this product I'm going to sell per week. And then you have your customer delivery goal, which is every time they order, I have to deliver the product to the customer within 24 hours. Those are 2 goals. And then you need in-between goals, which are goals you can monitor every day that lead to the main goal, right? I'm not confusing anyone yet. I hope you're not confused. And that's the daily goal. So the first thing is you've got to start, like, what am I looking to achieve? What am I looking, like, how many units am I going to sell? What's my revenue target in service market? It's $500,000, $1 million. That's my revenue target for the year or for the quarter. And then this is my daily targets, right? So you've got to keep those. You've got to actually know these things in order to put together your customer acquisition plan. So we started at the very end, right? So it would be nice to be able to make 10,000 units of sale of my product every week. So we started at the end, and then we sort of work our way back. Then, and I say this often about customer targets, right? So your first step is start at the end, or define your goal. And then your next step is who do I sell to, or who do I want to sell to, right? So sometimes for those that are starting right at the beginning, you're not sure who your customer is, but you have some idea, right? So who do I believe is my client? For those who have been doing business a little bit more, like me, you know, like I've always said this, with my company, Adele Technology Consulting, I sell to CEOs, I sell to companies that make revenue of $1 million and above. So I'm very clear of who I'm selling to so that I know where I'm going to sort of target, right? So be very clear on who you're selling to. In the beginning, it's a guess. Okay, I want to sell to, you know, men that maybe you're creating bespoke suits. Maybe that's your thing, right? You're selling to stylish men. Or you think men that are stylish or men that have disposable income, are you looking at younger or older men? You can start with that premise, but you go out there. So my premise is to go out there and ask your target market questions. And we've done this whole thing before about like going through your problem, the problem you're solving, and asking your target market. So go out there and ask them questions. And maybe you find out and sharpen your goal there, and you find out that actually, even though there are different groups of stylish men, right? So stylish men that are, so you find out maybe people that are a bit more in management roles. So you're, stylish men that will want to buy bespoke suits, but these are people that are maybe middle management or are entrepreneurs. So you've sharpened your goal, but the thing is to go out there and talk to your clients. So this week, I told you guys that my foundation, right? No, I do multiple things. My foundation, Women in Tech Africa, was working on a project with MTN Ghana, a 3-year project where we're training technology. We're scaling technology entrepreneurs across Ghana. So starting from the capital of Ghana, which is Accra, and going to sort of 3 or 4 cities across. Now, Monday I was in Cape Coast, which is where we started our Cape Coast training, and I spent time with the lady. So there was this one person that said, she wanted to. She was thinking of like a car app, right? So an app that would enable you to sort of enable you to track your the health of your car. And she said her target market was people that cared about about their cars. So I asked that, as I do with these programs, I asked that after you've defined it, you go out there and actually talk to customers. And so she went out and she talked to a few people, and she recognized that, look, the people that cared about their cars would take their cars to, say, the washing bay every week, would every 6 weeks go and change oil and change what. So it sharpens that target market, right? And it helps with her marketing at the end. Like people who care their cars, people who actually, let's say, are in love with their cars, are the kind of people that will go every 6 weeks, change oil, wash it or wax it themselves every Sunday, right? But here's the thing, she found out when she went out to talk to people that it wasn't like they didn't know about their cars, or that they cared so much about having a way to track, all the things that were going on with their cars, but they were more stressed about having to go and sit at the mechanics to check their car for hours. Like if every 6 weeks they went to change oil or have their car fine-tuned, they would have to sit there for 2 or 3 hours. So you see, she had to look, she recognized that yes, the target market might be the same, but the problem they have is slightly different, right? So go out there and actually talk to the people that you think will buy your product and get their feedback. And then step 3 is understand how your potential customers buy. And I suppose if you want to make it more, it's a define your acquisition funnel. For those that understand, define your acquisition funnel. So it is, what is their decision-making process? Is it a single person that makes the decision to buy your product? Is it somebody walks into a shop, they see and they're like, oh, that looks interesting, they buy it? Or are you selling to a business? Is it 4 or 5 people from different departments that are part of the decision process? Or who is the greatest influence in that decision making, right? So if you're selling to homes, for instance, it's possible that women are the greatest influence in the decision-making process in the home, and that affects how you make your marketing plan and how you make your customer acquisition plan. And how does your typical customer, the person you want to sell to, start the process of buying? So for instance, with my company, I sell to businesses, right? And the buying processes for most businesses starts in the strategy meeting maybe a year before. So the decision to maybe buy that piece of software or come and ask my companies come and do IT consulting started a year ago. when they were doing strategy meetings. So for instance, if they bought in 2017, it probably started in 2016 when they were putting together their strategy. That's how they sell. So if I'm planning, I've got to catch them very early in the process while they're doing their strategy, in order to ensure that when they're ready to buy, we're available for them to buy from. If you're selling a product that's more individual, are people calling their friends and asking, can you give me a recommendation on this type of soap, or this type of product? Maybe that's the buying process. Or it's your typical customer going to Google and searching on Google. All these things are important for you to know. And again, part of it is observing, going, asking questions, like how is the decision making process to buy your product defined. And all it could be is somebody's walked into a retail shop, and if you're the most colorful product they buy, so hey, your product has been the most colorful product there. But you've got to know in order to put together your customer acquisition plan. So let me go through these questions again. What is the decision-making process? Is it a sole decision to buy, or is it a group decision to buy? Who or what is the greatest influence in that decision-making process? And how does your typical customer start the process of buying? Is it a strategy session like my typical customer, or is it, a Google search, or is it calling a friend? This week I've been looking to buy a couple of, I always give away books, and I was looking to buy a specific book. I was looking to buy 30 copies of a specific book because I wanted to give them away. And I didn't go to Google. I went to my WhatsApp groups where I have friends, and I said, hi, I need 30 copies of this particular book. Can anybody help me? And I think I went on social media, and I went on WhatsApp, and I sent them. If you know that that's where your typical customer goes, then that's where you have to go and meet them. So that's part of your understanding how your potential customers buy. Then you take all this information to create your growth ideas, or your customer acquisition plan, right? So use the information about goals to understand how much work you need to put in, right? So remember the first thing I said, think about the goal. So if you're going to sell 10,000 units of your, toothpaste, or skincare cream, or hair cream, or whatever it is that you're selling, or it is, I am in a service business, you're in a service business like me, then say your revenue target is $1 million annually, right? If that's your revenue target, that tells you, and then you have your KPI, it says, well, I've got to talk to 100 customers a week. Then it tells you how much work. Can a single person talk to 100 customers per week? Do you need 3 or 4 people to talk to 100 customers a week, right? Then the kind of customers who prefer to buy your products, your target market, that helps you craft where you go to sell. So if you know who you're selling to, it helps you put together where you go to sell, right? So if you're selling to CEOs, where do CEOs congregate? What do CEOs do? If you're selling to parents, where do parents go? It could be, daycare centers. Are you selling to parents of toddlers? Daycare centers. You're selling to students, you're going to the university campus, right? So who your target market is helps you define where you go to sell. So all that part, and then how to start that, how they start the decision, the buying process helps you define your distribution channels. Understand this perfectly, right? So we ask the question, how do they make the decision? What's the decision-making process? That helps to define your distribution channels. So if your product is, the typical person who buys your product just walks into a shop and buys it, you've got to get into the shops that get the most people that come in, right? That defines your distribution channel. If you're selling to parents of toddlers, maybe you're going to, PTA meetings, right? So defining how they buy, or what the buying decision is, helps you define your distribution channel. And then you take all these ideas, and put together 2 or 3 plans. I think 3 is good, 3 or 4, a bit more, 3 plans. So for instance, if my customers are mostly parents, maybe I can create an event for parents that bring experts in parenting once a month, and then the parents come in. Maybe I can get 100 people in and I can sell to them at once, right? So that's one idea. Or if I'm selling to parents of toddlers, maybe I should work with daycare centers, right? So maybe I should work with daycare centers and give them affiliate fees. Remember I talked about business models and affiliate fees. Give them an affiliate fee if they sell my product through their channel. So you see, it's the same target market, it's the same product, but you see the acquisition plan, one is doing an event, one is selling through affiliates. So come up with 2 or 3, and what I tell you is to go out there and test out. So don't spend all the money. So this is the mistake all entrepreneurs have. Like, you have the first idea and you're like, yes, that's what I'm going to do, and you put all your money into it. Don't do that. Have 2, 3, 4 ideas, and then test out the ideas in small ways. So again, if you're selling to parents with toddlers, maybe you do one small event, maybe your church, or you do an event in collaboration with a parents group, and see whether or not you were able to, maybe have a little stand at the event, see whether you were able to sell to the parents, right? But it's not, you haven't made a whole plan, it's just a small testing out of it. Or you go to one daycare and you say, hey, these are, 20 of our products. Maybe, you can give the first 2 away free, and then, see if you can sell it to the parents that come to bring their kids to your daycare center. So you test it out. You can do all those. So all your 3 ideas, you can do them and then test it out and see which one actually is bringing you higher returns. And then you commit the funds, right? Then you commit the money to actually growing that one that has done well. Again, like I said, test it all out. Once you test it out, you prioritize. You test it out, you find out which one works, and then you prioritize. So if you say you've tested out 5 things in how to acquire new customers, then you see that one or two do really, really well. Then you prioritize those things as your channels, and then you begin to sort of put the money there and expand on them and do bigger things there. And then the final thing is to go out and execute. Go out and execute. So now you have a nice plan, right? And we've tested it. Now you can write it down. Of course, you have to write down the plan. But if you write it down, you look at it. I mean, really, that's not gonna give you the customers. So once you finish putting out this plan based on the steps that I've given you, then you go out there and start executing. Start executing and refining it. And very soon you'll have your first customer. And then you have your 100th customer, and you have a 10,000 customer, who knows, right? So today, because I was late, I'm gonna try and keep it short, and I've kept it really, really short. So if you have questions, I'd love you to leave them in the comments. I will get back to them sort of next week. There were some questions. Let me see, that was from last week. A couple of people emailed me. I'm gonna try and answer those ones. So there was a question around sort of soap, when to start sole proprietorship, when to start a limited liability. I mean, I've always used limited liability, so it depends on the business you want to start, really. I am all about limited liability. I might have someone to come and I might bring a guest one of these days to actually talk specifically to that. But I've always used limited liability. I've never run a sole proprietary business, so I don't know that I have the right answer to that. But leave your questions in there, and I can work on it a little bit. There are questions around, and I keep getting the question around how to raise funds to run a business. So if you're not in manufacturing and you're in the service business, I keep telling you, can you get your customers to pre-finance? Can you do the service? Can you use the manpower and get your customers to pay you for it? If it's manufacturing, can you spend a little money and do a prototype? You don't need money to start, but you need money to scale. So if you're in the place where you're starting, I suspect that it is be creative and start, right? Be creative and start. There's a whole video, actually go back and look at that video. There's a whole video on how to be creative and how to pull, you know, magic out of a hat as an entrepreneur. So go back and watch that a little bit. Okay, so question for the Harvard Business Review, rebuilding your business model. What question am I going to? Okay. So I asked some questions on how you can understand your potential, how you can understand how your potential customer buys. They were 4. There were 4 questions. Okay. So the first person to give me all the 4 questions that you need to be able to answer to help better understand how your target or how your target customer buys, or what the buying process is with your target customer, just answer, and you can come pick up the book at Pulse Ghana. So anyway, today we're going to wrap up early. Thank you for joining us. You can catch me if you have questions. Just leave them in the comments and I'll try and sort of curate them so I can answer them the next week. If you want to reach out to me, you can go to www.ethelkofi.com or contact@ethelkofi.com, or Instagram is @ethelkofi, Twitter is @ethelkofi. I've been told I have to add LinkedIn, so just search for Ethel Kofi on LinkedIn. Or on Facebook, I'm Ethel D. Kofi. You can reach out to me. I can do my very best to answer your questions. So I've been coerced into creating a WhatsApp group. So there is a WhatsApp group. I'm going to share the link at some point. There is a WhatsApp group, which I actually share. So they have a little bit about the content that I'm going to share on Wednesday morning. So I test it out on them. And they get to sort of, I share the content with them on what I'm going to teach, and they ask a few questions. And it's also a peer mentoring group. So I've seen that in the group over the last week, people have raised questions and other people have been able to answer them. So it's become a bit of a peer mentoring. And then I go in there once a week and sort of do sort of sharing and learning. What the group is doing, I think, this week is taking this and going to execute, and they're going to come back to us next week with the stories of how it worked out. So if you want to join, I think I'm going to leave the link in there, or go to my Twitter. I think the link is there. So I've had a good time with you this week. I look forward to see you next week. Next week, for those who can't, I'm in Abidjan for the week, so I'm consulting for an organization there on their technology innovation. So if you're in Abidjan, just leave me a message. I'd love to meet as many people as I can. Right, so that's it for this week. Enjoy the Ethel Kofi Startup School, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye. Sell it to them.